depending on whether I'm accepted or not, in that moment as a child, determines the structure of the ego, the structure of the personality that is thinking, that is now starting to think, what is acceptable in this family dynamic?
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another live conversation in our ongoing series with Warren Munitz, founder of Integrative Coaching and author of the profound book, Infinite Spark. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. Share it with people that will find value. Each episode, we explore a different dimension of self-mastery and conscious leadership. Today's theme goes right to the heart of personal growth, emotional maturity, the real marker of growth that no one really talks about. We often assume growth means acquiring more knowledge or success, but Warren shows us it's really about how we meet life emotionally, how we stay present, take responsibility, and respond rather than react. Warren, it's always so good to be with you.
Welcome back, man. Thank you for having me.
Let's dive straight into our first question. So, Warren, when we talk about emotional maturity, what does that really mean in practical, everyday terms?
What does it mean to you?
Well, okay. That's why I'm here. Perhaps let's frame what it looks like in action, how someone emotionally mature might respond differently in daily life.
So like what is emotional maturity in your definition? Let's just lay out, like, in a layman's term, when someone says emotional maturity, what does it mean to you?
Well,
just simply.
Yeah. So how well I would perhaps perceive a situation, how I would respond to someone, how I would anticipate or evaluate a situation.
Okay. So my experience is that often emotional maturity is, are you reactive or not reactive? Are you petty or not petty? Like, basically, if we take this into a work environment and you maybe we talk about someone who you recognize talking to this person, it's emotionally draining. It's emotionally taxing. So that is transference and counter-transference happening, which happens all the time. But now you know what it is, and you're experiencing the counter-transference of this person's emotional projection onto you. The feeling you're having is this resonance or this dissonance, this experience between the two of you. So the more you are emotionally mature, the less that experience impacts you. The less they're, not only emotionally, the less their comments impact you. How you navigate your own emotions, how you navigate how you're showing up is probably the barometer of what we could term emotional maturity. So where is your barometer? How quickly do you process emotion? How quickly are you able to get knocked down by the wave of emotion, then get back up? Or do you get knocked down, and then a week later, you're still complaining about what happened? And then you're dragging the story along and along and along.
I got you.
Okay.
So how do you distinguish between emotional maturity and simple emotional control or suppression? So maybe share how suppression masquerades as control, but lacks awareness or presence.
So if we take emotional suppression, it's probably done through some version of distraction, avoidance. Even some types of addiction are actually just ways of suppressing our emotion. If we look at, did you say emotional control?
I did.
So I would use that term, and emotional management, emotional control. And I would say that is a level where you are learning the skills. You're saying, oh, there's an emotion here, let me engage with it. These are the steps. Okay, let me write it down. I must breathe now. And I would say that learning that is not suppressing your emotions. You're starting to manage them. And this is the step towards growth, a step towards emotional maturity. When that becomes your natural go-to, it's like you don't even have to think, that's what you're doing already. You're going into the space of processing. You're going into recognizing that this is about you, not them. It's almost second nature. I would say that is your level of emotional maturity, which has taken how many years of emotional management and control or learning these skills to get there.
It's amazing. You make it sound so practical, like it's something you can develop or something you can become aware
Funny
of.
you say that. Yes, it certainly is something you can develop. And probably the most underrated area of development, which, what you said earlier, emotional maturity, growth, actually less about learning new knowledge and adding more layers of this information. It's more about removing these layers of thinking you know and moving into this space of experiencing the present moment as reality.
If I can just jump in there for a second, I think that works if you're conscious of it. Let's say you're unconscious of it. That means
unconscious of what?
Of your emotions.
If you're unconscious of your emotions, you're either dead or you're in a place where you're living so much in your head, which is essentially so much in fantasy, that you would need some type of shock to knock you into getting back in touch with your body. And that often happens when there's a trauma, there's a crisis, there's a loss. I suppose that's also trauma. Some type of overwhelm, career change, relationship change, moving house.
Yeah.
It's very nice and safe in the head because there are no feelings there. You can't, there's no feeling in the head. There's descriptions, and then there's plans and strategies and ideas and beliefs, but no feeling.
It reminds me of a few things that we've chatted about before, but it seems to me that in order to self-regulate, it's almost like you need markers to catch yourself as these emotions start coming in. Maybe that is really what consciousness is being aware of, how it's
consciousness and awareness are essentially the same thing. People define consciousness in different ways. Your conscious mind, that's consciousness, as opposed to unconsciousness. Really, those are just semantics around. We look at consciousness as awareness. It's awareness that we use that word rather. You're saying we need to have these triggers. Triggers are actually the experiences. You need to become aware of your triggers to then become aware of what's underneath. But it's like riding a bicycle. If you say to me you don't feel, I would say to you it's probably not possible to even ride a bicycle. How would you know you're falling? How would you know you're falling left or right? There's a I don't know if we call it, is it a disease where people don't have feeling, physical feeling?
Yes.
Okay? They can cut themselves and they have no idea.
So they don't feel pain.
No pain, sorry, yes. They don't feel pain. And I'm not sure you can look this up, but I think the average age that they live to is 25 without management. Why? Because pain is necessary to live and survive.
And to learn, maybe.
Do you think? Yeah. Don't put your hand in the fire. Feel it's getting hot. Oh, it's hot here.
Yeah.
So
the next time I feel pain or discomfort,
don't run away. Become conscious, because pain is bringing your awareness up. You're bringing that awareness of presence into the moment, and bringing you out of where you were in fantasy. It's bringing you into here, into now. And often people will use pleasure to avoid pain. So let me just cover up this with some pleasure. That's another way of suppressing. Except if this is reality and this is emerging and you're trying to cover that up with pleasure or with things, do you see that there's a limitation to what you can do? Yeah, at some point, this whole thing breaks down. Why? Because reality is fundamental, and this thing that you're doing is a delusion. It's not reality. It's not real.
Well, you certainly changed the way I've been thinking about things, Warren. So that's really useful. Guys, if you're loving this content, like, subscribe, share it with people that will find benefit. Let's move on. Warren, why is it so difficult for many high-performing leaders and professionals to develop emotional maturity, even though they're intelligent and self-aware?
So who are you saying?
Maybe I can prompt a little bit more.
When you say self-aware,
yeah,
to me that means you're also aware of your emotions. If you're not self-aware.
Then my question is, in layman's terms,
Yeah.
how does that then, if someone is self-aware, how does that then explain a lack of emotional maturity? And if that's the case, are we just down to someone's personality at that point? Is that they're just choosing to be that way?
Give me an example, because if you're saying someone is self-aware and there's a lack of maturity or emotional maturity, then they aren't that self-aware.
Okay.
That's it. Awareness is the ground. If you're not aware, that just means you're not mature. You can pretend to be mature based on a cultural norm, and then we go, oh, that's maturity based on a definition that we all agree to, but that's not maturity.
Yes. Okay. I think what I'm getting at is that, especially maybe with high-performing leaders, or let's say leaders in organizations that are holding positions of responsibility, one would hope that there would also be a level of humanity and sensitivity that goes along, with interacting with people the whole day. So I think often there's a misconception to say just someone is incredibly self-aware, they're aware of the effect that they're having on people, on the staff, and the people around them, but yet they still choose to act in a certain way that might not be useful to others.
So give me an example, because what you're describing is, if you are saying this person is self-aware, yes, and they're still doing that, then they're not self-aware.
Okay.
It's not possible. Let me explain to you. Right. If you are really self-aware, then you are aware that what the self is actually one. And that everyone and everything are extensions of that one. So why would you hurt yourself? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
So if you're saying your left hand is in pain and your right hand doesn't care, so it keeps hitting it with a hammer, it's not sensical.
It's not sensible to the self. However, when you look at how people interact with others,
then they're not self-aware. They have a level of awareness,
right, which
is wherever that is on a scale.
Right.
But to call it self-aware, that's the lack of awareness, because that is not that awareness that everyone is connected.
I think for me, where the confusion comes in is the understanding that self-awareness doesn't necessarily imply it's compassionate or helpful to others. It's just the fact that it's self-aware.
So self-awareness would imply compassion. You can't have self-awareness without compassion. You can't have compassion with self-awareness.
What I mean by that, but then that goes against what you just said. Because the way that I feel about it is, let's just say you have a manager or a team leader and you're in a situation where your team leader is responding to you in a disrespectful way, let's just say.
Okay, so we're talking about the team leader.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's just say that's the team leader knows exactly what they're doing. They're self-aware. They're aware of what they're doing, but yet they're still choosing to do it.
So you're talking about something else.
Right.
That's not self-awareness. If you say, oh, do you know you're hurting this person? The person goes, yes. They're not aware. They're intellectually cognizant of that. They're not aware. Otherwise, they wouldn't hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Because that other person is part of you.
Yeah.
You just don't know that. Yeah. And if you don't know that, then you're not self-aware.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, can you explain the link between childhood conditioning and the emotional reactions we face as adults? So, maybe lightly connect how early coping mechanisms shape our emotional patterns later in life.
So I want to clarify your question.
Okay.
So if we talk about early conditioning, that conditioning happens on the individual who's experiencing the emotion that is present completely in that moment. The child is experiencing that intense emotion, then the conditioning is either the acceptance or the denial or the rejection, of that emotion. That's the conditioning. Am I accepted? Feeling angry? Am I accepted feeling sad? Am I accepted feeling shame? Am I accepted feeling joy? Depending on whether I'm accepted or not, in that moment as a child, determines the structure of the ego, the structure of the personality that is thinking, that is now starting to think, what is acceptable in this family dynamic? It's not conscious, but it is a process of exploring how to fit in with the unit, how to fit in with a group. Why? Because without the group, there's no survival. And so then that becomes the ground of the personality that later in life people take to be themselves, but it's not. They've misidentified their pattern for themselves. And that is where we are. Most people are at that level. They think that their pattern is their identity. Oh, I would die for this identity. No, you're dying for a puppet. You're dying for a false self. And that is why that false self can pretend not to be aware. Why? Because where is it? It's in the head. It's in almost like this isolated reality, but it's only mentally isolated. It's not actually isolated.
Warren, you often speak about awareness as the foundation of transformation. How does awareness directly contribute to emotional maturity? So
let's clarify.
Please.
Awareness is the ground of existence. So awareness doesn't contribute to it. It's the fabric of it. And the way we can explore that is, think of it like this. If awareness is a field that allows objects to exist in, those objects become thoughts, emotions, beliefs, ideas, personality structure. They all exist in awareness. When awareness isn't blocked, avoided, then emotional maturity is there. When awareness is avoided and blocked, so you choose to live in this self-created false sense of reality, then there's a lack of awareness. So really, this isn't about adding layers and layers and layers and layers of knowledge and information and more. It's actually about regression and removing these layers, these false ideas, to the point where it actually becomes more and more painful to become conscious, because what you are letting go of is the cozy, warm sense that you've created to feel safe in the environment that you grew up in.
Fascinating. And answered a lot of other questions that have been swirling around in my mind. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, share. Thank you for bringing such awareness, Warren. So have we got time for a couple more questions?
Sure, let's do it.
So picking up a little bit on what we had said earlier, can emotional maturity be taught?
Definitely.
Great.
Because you're learning through building awareness of the starting off, even of the thought processes. At the very least, you're starting off with, are you aware that your thoughts are not real, that your thoughts are not reality? They are figments, they are illusions, they are patterns, they are lenses, they are filters. And the more you become aware of them, the more you start to notice that you're being taken for a ride by your thoughts. You're like sucked into a story and you don't even know it. But the more you become aware that there is something that is aware of the story, there's a gap, there's a space. That space is awareness. That space allows for a shift. And that is how you then keep going in. What caused that thought? When that thought comes, what do you feel? Another dimension. Is there a belief that is connected to this emotion or this feeling or that thought? Another dimension.
Final question, please. Warren, what daily or moment-to-moment practices would you recommend to build emotional maturity over time?
I would say that you should come to us and get some coaching. But if you want something to, if you're starting out, there are a few books that you can read that are very good as a beginner. I think a great one is Caroline Mace's Anatomy of the Spirit, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now and New Earth. The Alchemist is Paulo Coelho. Is a brilliant book. People actually often misunderstand it. It's one of the most foundational metaphors there are. See, my English is not my forte. Yeah. Then practices. Actually, you could read my book. That would be a good one. There's a lot of techniques and practices in my book, The Infinite Spark. We'll leave a link in the description for that. Maybe we can pop that in later. Journaling is something that probably would have the most profound shift over time for people that have not done anything before, because when you start writing your thoughts, if you just write stream of consciousness, start journaling, which is, what am I thinking? Right. What am I feeling? Right. What am I thinking? Right. What am I feeling? Right. If you write that, what you'll start to notice is that there are thoughts and feelings that you weren't even aware that were happening, because now that you have to write them down, you have to do that slowly. You have to really concentrate. What is there? So that is one thing that would work. 5-10 minutes a day to begin with. And I would say that breath awareness is probably the next step. is just sit, become aware of the breath, and every time your mind gets distracted, every time you start thinking about something, every time you realize, hey, wait, my job was just to sit and breathe, just to sit and notice the breath, come back. Don't berate yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't see it as a competition. Just take it for where you are. Come back to the breath. One very important thing is, and I think this gets missed a lot of the time, which is the position of your body. So we're sitting and it's very relaxing. In fact, if you propped up a pillow here, you could probably pass out and fall asleep. So sitting or lying down, which is better? Sitting. If you are so stressed that your entire body's in a knot and there's no chance you're going to fall asleep, then lie down, because then you're probably not going to fall asleep, and do breath awareness. But if you want to sit up and do breath awareness properly, you must try, I don't know if this comes across, you must try to keep your back, your neck, and your head straight, and imagine it like balancing rocks. Yeah, have you ever tried to go to the beach and balance little stones on top?
Tried it? Yes.
It's not easy.
Not at all.
Not easy, right? You think, oh, it's easier. It's not easy. And so here, what you want to do is you want to try to get, am I in the shot? No. You want to try to get your back, your neck, and your head in a straight line and feel your spine balancing one vertebra on top of the other. Because when you find that point of balance, that in itself becomes about awareness. You're using your body as the laboratory for awareness. And the more you do that, the more you realize just how concentrated your mind and attention must become to recognize the shifts in awareness that are constantly happening. Constantly. When you realize that tiny fraction of a movement shifts awareness, then you will realize the impact that your thoughts are having on your mind.
Warren, thank you for another deeply insightful conversation. Emotional maturity isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's learning to stay conscious even when life presses our buttons. That's where real freedom begins. For those who would like to explore more of Warren's work and integrative programs, visit integrativecoaching.co.za for free resources, coaching details, and access to the infinite spark.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Until next time, stay aware, stay kind, and keep growing. I'm Eldon, this is Warren, and this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. This was brilliant.